You're watching Next Pitch, the student athlete playbook for parents raising tomorrow's athletes.
Hi, my name is Anthony Leveritz, host of the Next Pitch podcast. And before I go any further and talk about today's guest, I want to just first say that my partner and producer is now an Emmy award-winning producer, Jason Cardona. Huge congratulations to him for his work on the Olympics in last summer, and super proud and happy for him. Obviously, he makes this show go around, and great to see him honored for his work. Today, we've gotten to interview lots of different kinds of people, but today we got to interview Scorpion. Scorpion from Mortal Kombat, also known as Chris Casamassa. Great guy. He also was the stunt double for George Clooney in Batman. And we talked about all sorts of different things. We talked about Mortal Kombat and the shooting of that. We talked about what it was like to be in the Batman suit, and then got into his work in helping kids, anti-bullying, all sorts of stuff around martial arts and how it can be of assistance to you in your life. I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope you enjoyed as much as I did. Again, Chris Casamassa going to be on the show today, and I hope you enjoy it. Today, joined by Chris Casamassa. Chris, thank you so much for joining us. I will have introduced you properly in the intro to the show, but for everybody out there listening to the show, who is Chris Casamassa? How do you introduce yourself? How do people know you?
Well, people know me from a bunch of different things, actually. If they're fans of martial arts action movies and TV shows, they're going to recognize me most famously as Scorpion from the original Mortal Kombat franchise. But I've had an opportunity in film and television to do a ton of cool things. I've got to fight Chuck Norris in Walker, Texas Ranger. I got to battle vampires with Wesley Snipes in the movie Blade, and I even got to wear the bat suit in the movie Batman and Robin. When you see Batman take and punch, that's not Batman. That's me. But Scorpion is my main guy, and so that's just one of many ways people can recognize me.
So you were in the original Mortal Kombat. What was that experience like to be a part of that? Like having been in martial arts, obviously growing up, being able to be a part of something like that. What was that like?
It was a really incredible experience, and as cliche as it sounds, when you talk to like actors, like, oh, it was so amazing. It was things. It really was, and it was a turning point in my life, because previous to that, I had done other films and TV shows, all small B-movie stuff, and I hadn't really done anything major. So that opportunity that I got was very eye-opening. I've never worked on a big budget Hollywood film before, and that was my first one, and it was an amazing experience.
How long does something like that take to make? What was the time frame in months? How long did that last? And what were your days like in something like that? Obviously, a lot of physical activity going on, being shot in that. How long was the process, and then what were your days like?
Well, in Hollywood, there's a saying that making a movie is like having a baby. It takes about 9 months. So from pre-production to post-production to rehearsals to the actual shooting of the film, it is a very long and arduous process. Now, I wasn't involved in the whole 9 months of it because I was just one of the talent that was in there. But I was on the show for about 3 months, including the rehearsals and the shooting time, and it was really cool. I got a chance to travel to Thailand and see the world a little bit, as the movie was shot in different locations around the world. But it was a lot of work, but it was also a lot of fun. The cast members were also great, and everybody was very eager, because at that time, the video game was one of the most popular video games on the planet, and the producers really wanted to do justice to the game, to bring it to the big screen. And again, this year marks our 30th anniversary of the film itself. So at that time, 2 other video game adaptations had come out of the movies, and they didn't do well. It was Street Fighter and Double Dragons, and they both kind of bombed at the box office. And so our production team didn't want that to happen to us, and they wanted to keep it as close to the game as possible. So that made it pretty challenging, because we had to do the fighting moves very similar to the game to do it justice. So it was interesting.
Yeah. So obviously a lot of physical movement and during a shoot like that? Do you have trainers on site? Do you have people on site to keep you healthy, or do you have to take care of that yourself when you get home at nighttime? What's the recovery like from that to do that over and over and over again?
Well, the good news for me is growing up in the martial arts and being it my whole life, the recovery process was fairly straightforward. It was something I was used to fighting every day. Um, Fighting on screen is a little different than fighting for real because you're not actually hitting each other. That's, of course, all sound effects and camera angles, but still the repetition of it, doing it over and over again, and then hitting the ground, which is hard, um, puts a little bit of stress and pressure on your body. But listen, we had a great stunt team there. Our fight coordinator, Pat Johnson, was incredible. He had done all the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle stuff. And the Karate Kid. So we had a great stunt and fight coordinator on set with us. That made things move a little smoother.
So you were then also stuntman in Batman, correct? That was you for Clooney.
Yeah, for George Clooney, yes.
So who's better looking, you or George Clooney? I would say, just sitting here looking at you, I'm betting on you here, but Clooney, how does it feel walking around knowing that you played George Clooney?
Listen, it was an honor. It was a pleasure, and getting to meet him was really cool. And I wasn't his original double. The guy that was supposed to do some of the fighting for him had gotten hurt on a previous film, and I got a chance to go in and meet the director. And apparently, according to him, George Clooney and I have the exact same chin, and we're the exact same height, so it worked out pretty well. But he was Clooney was a little not sure because he didn't know me. But he came to rehearsals one day and he watched us do some stuff in the bat suit. And afterwards, he was like, "You're going to make me look good." And I go, "Yes, sir. That's my job." And so, yeah, a really nice guy and a great experience. I'm one of maybe 25 people on the planet that's actually got to wear the actual bat suit. So that was kind of a big deal for me.
A huge Batman fan. How heavy is that thing? Like, is it as heavy as it looks on the screen?
Yeah, the new ones, I think they've streamlined a little bit, but at that time when we shot that one, the suit itself weighed 35 pounds, and it was skin tight, skin tight rubber suit. So imagine fighting in a wetsuit that weighs 35 pounds. Plus, you have an 8-foot long cape that's behind you. So it was a very interesting challenge, but it was really cool. The coolest part of that was when we were doing rehearsals for that Batman, they allowed me to rehearse in a bat suit, but they couldn't use the ones in the movie. They used the ones from the previous movie, which were the Val Kilmer suits.
Okay.
So the suit they gave me to rehearse in, on the inside of it, it had a name tag that said Kilmer.
Oh.
So I got to rehearse in one of the suits from the previous film to practice some of the moves.
Oh, that's pretty cool. That'd be like me getting to wear Michael Jordan's jersey somewhere, just wandering around. That's got to be amazing. So you don't just get to wake up one day and get to be in Mortal Kombat and be the stunt double for George Clooney. Let's go backwards. Your dad deeply involved in the martial arts. How did your childhood upbringing, tell our audience just sort of about your growing up, being around your dad, how all of that unfolded to get you to where you were able to be in that moment.
Yeah, my dad started martial arts when he was in the Marine Corps. He was stationed in Japan, and he fell in love with it over there and stuck around until he made his black belt in a style of martial arts called judo. And again, he had fallen in love with it and just wanted to keep training and expanding. And he came back to the States and studied more martial arts in different styles. And the cool thing was about my dad, he ended up with black belts in like 10 different styles of martial arts, and he never really liked any one of them. He loved them all. So in the early 1960s, he did something that really at the time was unheard of. He started combining martial arts styles. If anybody listening is a martial arts fan from back in the day, there was this unwritten rule that you didn't necessarily cross the streams. Like you were either a Japanese stylist or a Chinese stylist or a Korean stylist, whatever. But my dad was like, you know what, I'm just going to start putting these things together. And he had some really amazing stories about people telling him what not to do. He couldn't do this and he couldn't do that. And his thing was, I'm an American. The last 4 letters of the word American are I can. I can do whatever I want. You can't tell me what to do. So get out of my studio. And, there was this other unwritten rule that if other martial artists didn't like what you were doing, they would come in and challenge you. And if they beat you, you had to close up your studio and leave. And
that's pressure.
that is pressure. But here's the deal. It's as of this recording, it's 2025. We're still here. So my dad never lost a fight, never lost a battle. 60 years later, our company, Red Dragon Karate, is thriving. We've got 17 locations here in Southern California, and things are better than ever. So I grew up, and I had a front row seat to all of this. I started martial arts training when I was 4 years old. My dad was my idol growing up because I watched him do all these amazing things. And so I fell in love with the martial arts at a very young age. And one of the things it taught me was discipline and commitment, right? Which sometimes today in society seems to be lacking a little bit. My dad told me, hey, you can start martial arts, but you can't quit until you make it to black belt. Now, when you're 4 years old, you're like, well, whatever. Okay. But during my journey to black belt, I wanted to quit a lot of times. And my dad said, hey, honor your word. You said you wouldn't give up. You wouldn't stop. You wouldn't quit. And, he was right. He made me keep going until I made it to black belt. Once I made black belt, then I was hooked. I never wanted to stop.
How long was that? From 4 years old? How old were you when you got your first black belt?
I was 10. So it took me 6 years. And here's a fun fact. I failed my first black belt test. I thought my dad was my karate teacher, so he's just going to pass me. So I didn't really practice. I didn't really put in the time. And sure as heck, I don't know what your policy on cursing is. I almost
you
said
can
bad word
curse.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, can I? Good. Well, sure as shit then. My dad failed me on my black belt test. And I had to wait an entire another year to test again for black belt. But again, that taught me about that self-discipline, perseverance, commitment, all good core character values that we want everyone to have.
Did you do any other sports as a kid, or was it just martial arts for you?
It primarily was martial arts. I wrestled in high school for a number of years, which was a natural extension of my martial arts because judo is a style of martial arts that deals with throwing, takedowns, and holds. So wrestling kind of was my jam. I tried football for a couple of years, but I didn't grow. I was a very late bloomer. Like I was 4 feet, like 4'5" when I was a junior in high school, trying to play wide receiver. Like it was crazy. But I'm a big football fan, so I played a couple of years of football. Mostly I played the bench. And I have a record. I have a record 2 catches in my career.
Congratulations!
Yeah, 2 catches, 1 for a first down. So there you go.
You'll remember every one of them, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. You can't forget those. But yeah, so I did a couple of sports like that, but mostly martial arts was my jam.
We talk about this all the time, and you already brought it up, and I just kind of want to drill down on this. One of the things that's so important for young people is to learn how to fail, because life is a series of failures, right? Of getting back up from them and doing it all over again. And if you just do one thing, most of the time you're going to get good enough at that you don't experience failure very much. With martial arts, you're constantly growing, expanding, doing new things. How did learning how to fail benefit you as you've grown, and how did martial arts teach you that skill set of, I didn't get it done this time, I got to go through a process and get better the next time?
It is a series of failures over and over again. And in the martial arts, it's not about you missed a punch on the bag. Like, you miss a punch on a person and someone punches you back, or they kick you back. So there comes a point where you're like, I am tired of getting my ass handed to me, and I need to get this. I need to get this down and put in more work. And here's the other cool thing that I like to tell people, which is really true. My dad was an amazing martial artist. I wasn't. Like I don't know if I got just genetics from my mom's side or whatever, but it took me a lot longer than everyone else. But my focus of I want to be the best in the world is what pulled me through. And so I didn't have a lot of natural talent. All my talent that I have was developed through years of practice, through years of training, through years of trial, through years of failure. And every one of those failures got me closer to the goal that I wanted. Like I was on the pro competition tour for a decade. I competed professionally. And the last 4 years of my career, I was the #1 competitor in the country. But the first 6 years, I sucked. Right. As a matter of fact, the first 2 years on the pro tour, and I competed locally, and I was like the local guy who was #1. And I'm like, I'm going to go pro. I went pro, got my ass handed to me. I didn't win one tournament the entire first year. I got 1 third place trophy on the second year, But that one third place motivated me like, okay, maybe I can do this. Maybe I can do it. And it took time. But my goal, my focus goal was I want to be number one in the country. And it
Yeah.
took me 6 years to get that first number one title.
Yeah, and that's why I love athletics, whatever it is for young people to get involved, because there's so, instant gratification. We talk about that all the time. There's no such thing as instant gratification in a process like that. You are going to fail along the way, and being able to learn how to get up from that and do that again, knowing that you might fail again and maybe embarrass yourself, maybe feel bad about yourself. It is such a valuable lesson for kids.
I agree 100%.
What else? So for young people, out there, parents out there listening to this, that, they've got kids in, and they're in soccer or they're in football or they're in basketball or lacrosse, whatever they're doing, but they're considering putting their kids in martial arts for, as an ancillary sport or as a second thing. What other benefits come from that for young people if they're doing other sports?
That is a great question, but this is where you and I are going to slightly diverge
Okay,
on our assumption. Your assumption is the martial arts is a secondary sport, and my assertion is that it should be a primary, because every skill set that you need for every other sport is learned in the martial arts. Balance, timing, speed, power, explosiveness, commitment, focus. Like, you need that. Coordination. You need that for every other sport, whether it's baseball, football, basketball, soccer. It doesn't matter. We take kids who are bench warmers and turn them into all-stars because of the skill set that we give them. And listen, all sports are valuable because they all teach and provide some source of outlet. But in my opinion, there's none more important than the martial arts, because especially, and this is where I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit.
Please get up on it, build the soapbox and stay on there as long as you want.
I'm a big proponent for anti-bullying. It's one of my passion projects for the last 7 years. I've been traveling the country teaching bullying prevention programs in public schools, private schools, martial arts schools all across the country. My goal is to have a million kids get certified to our bully-proof program. I've written 3 books on the topic. They've been bestsellers. And I have 2 kids, right? I have a boy and a girl. I got a matching set. But here's the thing. And bullying is a big problem. Like 186,000 kids miss school almost every day because of bullying. But girls need it way more than guys. Like, it's my firm belief that every parent that has a daughter should enroll them in martial arts, because statistically, 1 out of every 5 girls in America is sexually assaulted or attacked in their lifetime. It's a horrible statistic.
Horrible problem.
Right? And that's why my daughter never had a choice. Like, as soon as she was 3.5 years old, she was in the martial arts. Now, she like my dad before me, she loved her dad and she wanted to be around her dad. So it was cool for her. She never knew she didn't have a choice. But my daughter right now, she's 24 and she's a badass, right? I have full confidence in her that not if, but when something happens to her, she's going to know exactly what to do, because I've trained her for that moment. She didn't learn that from softball. She didn't learn that from soccer. Wow. She didn't learn that from any other sport. She learned that from martial arts. So women need it way more than men. And you're one of the good guys. I'm one of the good guys out there trying to empower women to do more, to be more, to believe in themselves. And guys need it too. There's a ton of guys that get bullied. There's bullying in the fucking workplace, for crying out loud. So it's all over the place. So in my opinion, if everyone on the planet studied martial arts for just 1 year, our planet would be a way better place.
I love it.
Because the self-discipline and the confidence to believe in yourself, the respect to have that martial arts teaches you to have in yourself, and respect for others. Like, those things are, again, my opinion, they're lost in today's society for the most part.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get off my soapbox there for a
No,
second.
you can stay on. I love it. So, and thank you for correcting me. I appreciate that. It's a primary sport. I will change my verbiage here. So
now,
you have
but for you, I don't mean to, for you, that's cool. I mean, it's cool. I'm just giving you my perspective.
No, totally. Yeah.
So,
that's why these conversations are so important for parents to hear. Right. And I think there's so many things that you just said right there that are valuable. And my son goes to a high school, will be in high school next year. And I'm so happy they're for their football program, their strength and conditioning coach brings in a martial arts instructor for one of the days for their strength and conditioning program. And they work on that because of all the things that you said that it teaches, the balance, the core strength, the discipline, all the stuff. They do tumbling as well in there as well to help them with that. So the benefits are definitely all of those core things that you need to be a good athlete, and everything that you do, you can get from martial arts. Yeah.
There you go.
So you have an initiative called the Art of Fighting Without Fighting. Is that part of the anti-bullying platform, or what is what? Explain that to me.
Well, that actually is not mine. That is Bruce Lee's.
Oh, okay.
Well, but thank you for trying to attribute it to me. That's not me at all. Yeah, our anti-bullying course and the thing that we teach when we go to schools really is it's twofold. When I see these kids, there are kids in my audience who are getting bullied, and there are kids in my audience who are on the path to becoming bullies. And so what I'm able to do in the training that I provide them is course correct these kids, right? I make the kids that aren't aware that they're becoming bullies aware of it and how they can change their perspective and change their life. One of the things I say is, today is the first day of the rest of your life. So although you've made mistakes in the past, you have the power to change them. And I get these kids to take responsibility for their actions and their words, right? They're too busy pointing fingers instead of pointing a thumb.
Yeah.
Right. And so I get them to be hyper aware of that. And I do a bunch of fun demonstrations, and it's interactive with the audience. And the kids who are getting bullied, I teach them what to say, what to do, what to avoid, who to hang out with, who not to hang out with. But the one thing that I don't teach them to do is to punch a bully in the mouth. Now, I do teach them some self-defense, but it has nothing to do with that. That's actually the worst advice you could give. If a bully, someone's messing with you, just punch him in the mouth. Well, if you don't know how to punch, first of all, you're going to probably break your hand if you hit somebody in the head, because the head has some of the strongest bones in the human body. MMA fighters after matches have their hands broken. They're wearing gloves.
Yeah.
Right. So to tell someone to do that, it's just bad. And they punch him in the face, and then what? They have no other skill set.
Right. Run.
Right. And most of the time, a bully is bigger and stronger than you. Right. Yeah. It's very rare that a little tiny guy picks on a 6-foot guy. So, you're gonna lose that battle. So there's a strategy and a complex system behind it that I'm able to teach and empower these kids to do. So
you also run your own business, but you've also got involved in helping other businesses and helping them grow. How much of the martial arts philosophy gets translated into helping businesses with their growth? Is it just permeate everything that you teach? Is it a system that comes from your martial arts background, or from running your business, or a combination of both?
It's a combination of both, actually. And I'll tell you something you already know, and that is systems run businesses, period. Right? So most entrepreneurs, most small business owners get into their business because they have a passion for it. And whether it's martial arts or hair cutting or a liquor store or dry cleaners or a yoga studio, they get into it because they love that. That's their thing. Cool. And what happens is it becomes a personality driven business. The person who owns the business is in charge of it. The business becomes successful and popular, but then the business owner tends to reach this point where they start to burn out, and they reach this point of no return because they lack systems. How to answer the phone properly, how to take care of your customers, or how to run your point of sale system, how to do email marketing, advertising, all the things that an entrepreneur has to do as we juggle 20 hats a day. So what we've learned the hard way over 60 years is how to systematize each of those things. And I can take, whether it's a martial arts school owner, a gym owner, or a yogurt shop, I can take them and show them, well, here's how you systematize this. Here's how you systematize that. And I literally give it to them. It's cut, paste, and deploy for them. So it makes it easier for them to train other people so that they can empower people to help them with their business.
I want to go backwards to the bullying thing. We talked about with kids, but you brought it up in the workplace. What is your advice for people who are in the workplace right now? And it's a big problem. I live in Oregon, and there was a company that almost, one of the largest companies on the planet, that almost went down and lost a ton of money because of the culture that was inside of their organization and their company for the problems associated with bullying and harassment in the workplace. What is your advice for someone who's being bullied, and then for a business owner or a leader of a team or someone that's able to make culture change when they see that? How do you attack that topic in the workplace?
If they have an HR department, that's the first place that we tell them to go, right? If they don't, and you hit the nail on the head, it's culture of a business, and culture is predicated and dictated upon one person, the head of the company.
Mm-hmm.
So if you have access to the head of the company, that's where you need to start. You start because everything happens from the top down, and you get what you're willing to tolerate.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to put your foot down and say no, and not tolerate it, and get the resources that you need. That's why if you have an HR department, it makes it a little easier. But if the culture is corrupt from the top, you have to start at the top. And then the hard thing is, which just leave. You've got to leave your workplace. And unfortunately, again, we're going to get into a societal issue here. Most people are living paycheck to paycheck. So to make that choice to leave your job, it's not so easy, because it's like, shit, I need my next paycheck to make rent or make my car payment or pay my credit card bill. So it becomes this crazy cycle of wash, rinse, and repeat, and it's difficult. Listen, I don't have any easy fix. I don't have an easy answer, because every case is individual and different. But at some point, you've got to realize, listen, I have one life to live. I get one spin around the sun.
Yeah.
And am I gonna do it being miserable in a job that I fucking hate?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Gary Vaynerchuk says that very famously, right? I'd rather be happy making 50,000 a year than miserable making 150.
Yeah. It's a very true statement for the people that, because obviously it's culture, right? And we both touched on that. But for the person that's watching it, right? You may not be being bullied, but you're seeing it happen. You're in the room with it. You're on the email thread. You're in the situation. It's not happening to you, but you see it happening, and it is impacting your work and the person that you're next to. What can I do as a someone that's viewing it? Is it same thing? Just let's just go to HR and have that conversation, or is there ways to combat that? Not being just standing by and watching that shit happen.
So good point. There is power in numbers. If you're seeing it and you're watching it, and you can support the person it's happening to, that's a very powerful statement, and it really helps validate the other person and what they're feeling. Here's the flip side to that. If you see it and you watch it and you say nothing and you do nothing, you're just as bad as the fucking person doing it.
Yeah.
Right? Most people have had really good parents, and they've taught them the difference between right and wrong. If you see something wrong, like I don't expect anybody to jump in there and be like Superman, like, I'll save the day. It's not about that. It's just about speak up, say something, do something, or at least encourage the person that it's happening to. Hey man, I'm sorry you're going through that. I'm here if you want to talk, if you want to chat, you want to go to HR together, I'm there.
Yeah. So, don't let it happen. You got to say something. Yeah. Because it impacts everyone, and it's not just the person that's being bullied. They have it the worst, but when that is going on inside of a group, whether it's a small team, a large organization, it is impacting everybody that is associated with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm an old person, right? And I've never done martial arts before. What are the, I'm going through this, I'm being bullied or in the workplace, or I'm just not as healthy as I would like to be. Is it okay to walk into a martial arts studio at 51? I'm 51 years old. To walk in 51 years old, never having done anything like this before, will I be welcomed? Is this a thing that you see happening with older people coming to your sport?
You're like my hero right now. That is the best question ever. And here's the greatest thing about the martial arts. It has no age limit. It doesn't matter if you're 4 or 54 or 104. It can be done by anyone at any time, literally almost anywhere. So it's never too late to start, right? There's that old saying, the best time to start was yesterday. The second best time is now.
Yeah.
So even at 51, you could do it. Now, that brings up the more difficult question. What style of martial arts is right for me? Okay.
How do I figure that out?
People ask me this question all the time. And the best way to figure that out is you need to do a little due diligence. Like, you wouldn't just go to a car dealership and buy the first car that you see. Right. You're going to go check out a couple of cars. Same thing with martial arts, especially if you're, now we're talking about you, but if you're going to put your kid in.
Yeah.
I tell everyone, go and audit a class. I want you to go watch a class at the studio, because your kids are going to act just like those kids on the floor. Your kids are going to look just like those kids on the floor. If you, and your kids are going to act just like the instructor. So if you don't like the instructor, if you don't buy with them, you don't like the class, you don't like what you hear, you can just walk out.
Yeah.
Not every martial art is for everyone. There's a variety. There's just like food. There's so many different styles of food. Like, you might not like Chinese food, but the guy next to you, like, oh, I love Chinese food. So you got to go to a couple different places. And then the second part is check the online reviews, right? Check the online reviews. It's just like Amazon. Like, when I go to buy something new for the first time on Amazon, I look at the reviews. Yeah. It's social proof. I want to make sure I'm making a good choice. Like, that looks like a cool product. What do reviews say? You know what I mean? If something's got 200 reviews and it's got 2 stars, I'm probably not buying it.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you got to do some social proof. The third part is ask your friends or neighbors. Undoubtedly, there's someone in your network that has kids training somewhere. They either love the place or they're about to quit because they don't like the place. So you ask and get those recommendations. And the fourth part is take a free class. If you find a place that you're vibing with, if it's a good martial arts school, they should offer you at least one free trial lesson. Try it out, see if you like it. And that's what we do at Red Dragon. We have you come in because there's 2 reasons why. I want you to do a free lesson because I want to make sure I can meet your needs, that we can teach you what you are coming here for. And number 2, I want to make sure that you are a good fit for our studio. We don't accept just anyone in. So if you come in and you're going to be an asshole, like, I don't want you infecting my culture that we built in our school. So if you follow those 4 points, you're going to find the place that's right for you.
So we're doing a series right now with a mental performance coach. Her name's Hannah Huseman, and she works on mental training for both athletes and executives and organizations. How much can getting involved in martial arts at any point in time in your life, is that being able to focus on that? Do you see that translate into the world outside of what I do on a day-to-day for my work? How much is that going to translate to helping with my performance and everything else that I'm doing?
It's going to help a ton. Like, visualization, focus, and confidence, the 3 core components of being successful at just about anything. And this is where martial arts and other sports merge, because the visualization process, taking that moment to sit there and imagine the perfect play, the perfect shot, the perfect throw, the perfect kick, the perfect punch, the perfect self-defense move, visualizing yourself doing it, like, and you already know this as a coach, that visualization process is probably one of the most important processes in becoming good at anything, because your mind is such a powerful weapon. What the mind believes, the body achieves. And if I can teach you to focus and to sit quietly and think about the move prior to you doing it, then when you're in the moment, in Japanese, there's a term called mushin, which means no mind. And we tell people this all the time. If you're in a fight and you have to think about what move to do, you've already lost. If you're in a game and you have to think about what shot to take, which way to cross over, who you're going to pass the ball, if you're thinking about that, you're not in the moment of the game. So the visualization, focus, and the overall confidence of belief in self from constant repetition, right? Because reps equal results. Those 3 components will translate not just to sports or not just to martial arts, but to business and to life.
I've thought about getting involved in it multiple times in my life, and you've inspired me. I am going to go. There's a studio not too far from my house. I'm going to go take a free class and see if I can't get myself involved. I'm watching what my son's doing with his football team, and it looks like fun, but it's also challenging. And I think the challenge of it for for me would be fantastic. You've inspired me. I'm gonna go see if I can. I'm gonna go see if I can get involved. What else?
Hey, by
Oh,
the way,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. I'm going to make it even easier for you. Don't do it now because we're on the air. But when we're off the air, if you send me the zip code in which you live,
Yeah,
I will tell you which studios are the good ones.
perfect.
Yeah, I have a good perspective after being in this my entire life. I can tell you just based on their ads or the stuff they have online if it's
Yeah.
going to be a good school or a bad school for you. So I'm
Okay.
happy to help
Cool.
you if you want. Because
Yeah.
I think you said you're in Utah.
We're in Oregon.
Oregon. Okay.
I coached at Utah for 8 years, but I live in
Gotcha.
Oregon. I live in the Portland metro area. So I'll
So there's
send you
some
my zip code.
there's some good people up there.
Oh, it's cool. So what else? Anything else about the martial arts that we haven't touched on that you feel like is critical for young people, their families that are considering this that they should consider?
I'm going to say no at this point. If you've listened to this much of the
Yeah,
broadcast and you haven't got it yet,
yeah.
you're not going to get it.
It just go do it. Find
Yeah.
a place and go do it. And I think for coaches out there listening, just having watched what it's done for the program that my son's a part of infusing it into their regular regimen of training is critical. So if you have the resources as a school district, being able to bring that into your daily routine or your weekly routine with your kids would be monumental.
Yes. And a point of fact on that, two things. One, a good friend of mine by the name of George Chung was actually the martial arts uh, trainer and coach for the San Francisco 49ers for a number of years. So they believed in it enough that they brought him in to do it. I've got our company right now is working with several school districts in our area to teach martial arts inside the school system as part of their program and curriculum. And the results have been fantastic. One of the schools that we're at in a town called Whittier has seen a 75% drop in suspensions at their schools since we started.
That's
And
amazing.
that's what I was talking about earlier, right? The focus, the confidence, the respect
Yeah.
for themselves and other people's. Like it took some time. We've been in that school district for about a year now, but a 75% drop
That's
in
tangible. Like that is
yeah,
tangible.
it's a huge. And I didn't even know until the superintendent came to me and goes, "Hey man, I got to tell you something." I'm like, "Oh, what did I do wrong?" He goes, "No, no, no, this is great." And he showed me the stats and the data, and I was like, "Wow, that's powerful."
Yeah, that is powerful. Well, I think that the whole conversation has been fascinating. I really appreciate you coming on. I know your time is valuable, and you can do with it a lot of different things with it. Giving some of it to us means a lot to us. One of the things we do with all of our guests is we make you go back in time to build a little time machine to travel back in time to your 14-year-old self or 12-year-old self, and knowing everything that you've been through, kind of what you've done, where you've gotten to. What advice would you give your teenage self right now, knowing everything that you know?
It's a strong question. Save more, save earlier.
I love it. That is great advice I'm going to take that myself, although I can't save earlier, but I'm going to save more. And then finally, the kind of really important thing here, I'm a big dad joke guy. So if you got a dad joke for me, I'd love to hear your best dad joke.
Well, sir, I wish I did.
Okay, so you're gonna have to
gotta,
suffer through my dad joke book here. I'm gonna
okay.
just let's see if I can find let's see, I don't like that one. This is terrible, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
All
What
right.
do you call a woman who always knows where her husband is?
I don't know.
A widow.
That is horrible. How dare you?
Well, we just went off the politically correct spectrum there for a moment. Well, Chris, how can people find you if they're interested in having you do so many different things with your school, with your initiatives, with the speaking that you do, helping other businesses? How do people contact you? How do they find you? How do they follow you?
Well, I'm one of the easiest guys to find on social media because of all the film and TV stuff that I've done. So that's pretty easy. My website, which is my name, chriscasamassa.com, is a great way to connect with me. if you're interested in martial arts or any of our programs, reddragonkarate.com. If you want the Bullyproof program brought into your school or into your system, go to bullyprooflife.com.
Bullyprooflife.com.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And that's for any school district. Is that specific to California, or do you do that across the country?
I am all around the world. As a matter of fact, in 2 days, I'm getting on a plane and traveling to my next event on the East Coast.
That's awesome. Well, I wish you great success in that. The world needs that. And for parenting children in today's world, it is something that is of extreme value.
Agreed.
Well, thank you, Chris, so much for coming on. Look forward to getting my. I will get you my zip code, and I'm gonna go take a free class. I'm gonna bring my wife and see if I can improve my overall focus and training at 51 years old. I know I can. I know I can get better at that. Thanks again. Really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, man. Had a great time.
All right, Anthony Leverett's back here. Next Pitch podcast. Just had the great pleasure of interviewing Scorpion, Chris Casamassa. What a great show. What a great guy. Really grateful for him taking the time to come on. Super busy dude, and covered a whole bunch of things, but really got into, something that I believe in. And I keep getting this from high level athletes, high level coaches, high level trainers. Failure is a huge part of the process of learning how to be successful. And Chris talked to, about his own experience of failing for 6 years trying to get his black belt and getting back up and going back through that with the goal of becoming the best in the country and ultimately achieving that goal. But learning how to fail is a critical part of growing, and martial arts can help teach that. We had a nice interaction where I called martial arts an ancillary sport, and he corrected me. We diverged, as he said, martial arts being a primary sport. And I loved his point that it can teach focus, visualization, and concentration, 3 very critical things in all of the sports that you do. And having that as a primary part of your life as a young person is a great reason to get involved in the martial arts. And then we really got into the bullying piece at the end, and we're going to bring Chris back on and dive deeper into this. And he said something to me off the air that I think is really important for people to know. Whether you're a kid, an adult that's experiencing bullying, it's not your fault. You are not the reason you are being bullied. The person that is doing it to you has their own sets of problems and issues. And while you got to deal with the bullying and figure out a way to get through that, what you can't do is put it on yourself that it must be something wrong with me, which is why I'm being bullied. Remember, it's not your fault. It's the person that's doing it, and don't take that in on yourself. Was a remarkable conversation. I'm really looking forward to bringing Chris back on the show and diving deeper into some of that subject matter. Remember, if you're enjoying the show, please rate us, like us, write a review, tell your friends, post it on your socials. You can find us at Next Pitch Media on all the social media platforms. But keep listening, keep rating us, keep liking us. And until next time, have a great day.